本当？見えないでしょ？どこにいるのかな？見えないよ。
I miss you.
What's good, internet? It is Tuesday, March 2nd, and you're
Stop
listening
doing
to
the intro.
Waypoint.
Why do you even need
What?
to do it? Do you even need to do the intro? Like, all right, just load up the first clip. All right.
Okay,
so
listen.
got,
All right. The thing is, by the time this airs tomorrow, there's a chance that everyone's
There's a
already,
real trailer.
There's a real trailer, and all people have seen the real shit. That means what we're about to see is raw and uncut from
my favorite '90s MTV.
Show. Looking at game trailers, raw and uncut. I'm your VJ Austin, and I'm here to show you the realest stuff that's coming out of these streets right now. Like this Elden Ring leak trailer that we allegedly got from someone on the internet. It's allegedly part of an Elden Ring marketing strategy that didn't come out, I guess, in February 2020.
Who knows?
Allegedly.
Who knows?
So we're gonna hit play on this first video. I'm gonna load it up. I'm gonna load it up.
Right, I'm gonna make this 2 megabyte video.
I'm Austin Walker.
Screen.
Joining me, Cado, Patrick, Rob. We're here. We're about to watch something that says confidential on it as soon as I hit play. All right.
Yeah,
ready
it's this podcast. This podcast is confidential.
Podcast confidential.
Okay. 3, 2, 1 on 0.
Yeah.
Okay.
3, 2, 1, go. I don't hear anything. Should I be hearing anything? There's
That's a dragon.
You are hearing something?
Yeah.
Ah, fuck. I think my audio's fucked up.
Oh, those are big.
Whoa.
Those are big boys.
Those are big boys. That boy's
That's
big.
Spiky Face Big Boy. Attack on Titan, the video
look
game.
Look how big that other face was.
Oh, you tragic
Love it. Can't wait to be called a tragic thing.
sea of fog all the way to the Riftlands.
Oh, this is okay.
Wizards.
Wizards.
Gandalf.
Gandalf is here. That was the
I
first. The
like
first
that
thing
big
that was
scimitar.
the big scimitar looked sick, or like it's
I
like
do like it was like, you know, you're wondering like, well, how is this game going to be different? And like off the bat, it's like, it's got a sword
It's
and
not.
a shield. You're good. Like,
You're good.
Souls is back.
that
baby.
wizard feels a little different. All right, we're loading up.
Yeah.
Episode, you know, also
Episode
but like
2.
the Sea of Fog is absolutely some soul shit.
And we're at
so-
the edge of the map.
We are
That's
at the
good.
edge of the map. That's true.
All right. Ready?
Yep. 3, 2, 1, go.
Imagine what drives you to seek the Elden Ring.
Would you see that sneaking?
I did see
Little
sneaking.
stealth?
There's
Sneaking.
stealth.
That was deliberate.
Very well.
Torches. There's a
Ooh,
torch.
Fireblade.
Dragon, sure.
Dragon.
Whoa, that
Dodging.
wizard's got moves.
The wizard's got moves. The wizard got
That pointy hat didn't even
got a
fall off.
crossover. Ooh,
Yo, he's using some big magic with that
magic
spear.
And that that was like and a horse. Here's the horse.
Wow.
The horse
Oh
is
yeah.
mounted
Give me
combat.
that big open space, baby.
This is wild. I'm gonna slowly walk through this again. I can only imagine what drives you to
What?
seek the Elden Ring. We got sneaking. We got
That sneaking is fat. Like if you like, there's no stealth in Souls. I mean,
no.
Like,
I mean, yeah,
not
Sekiro,
really,
you're sneaking around, but you're still just like,
Yeah,
getting
Sekiro
in
I
the
think is probably
dirt
the
and-
closest because you can do some stuff to like modify it a little bit, but it's still not like that, right? Other stuff in this, I did just want to know that this person has a torch that's lighting things up in real time. Dark Souls
it
2.
did. It almost
Wow.
felt like, I don't know that From would do this, but it did feel like that is like, hey, you motherfuckers,
Uh-huh.
who didn't get off our backs about that original
torch
trailer
shit.
for Dark Souls 2 shown at TGS
Yeah.
in, 2014.
Also, just want to point out the color of things like the sky here. There's like a deep dark blue at night, but it's not oppressive here. There's
It's a
like
bright game. Like
Yeah.
the sequences in the winter. I mean, Sekiro was also fairly
Yes.
bright. Like got away from like the bleakness of
I will say
Souls and Bloodborne.
the brightness, some of the brightness does feel like it can be desaturated in a way that still feels like in that mode. There's a giant yellow tree in one of these shots. What the fuck is going on there?
There's
Who
just
could
big
say?
things in general.
Yeah,
I mean, like
yeah. There's a real scale thing happening here.
is the biggest biggest, and I mean there are a lot of big boys in the Souls games, but like in terms of stature, King what's his face is probably the tallest of the bosses in Souls, right?
Only if you
King, what's his
no,
face?
because there's like
Ventress, isn't it
nope,
V?
not
What's the-
Ventress. Ventress,
No.
Ventress. Now you're in Rob in my wheelhouse. We're talking about a Sith assassin, a little baddie. Who are you? You're from
You go
Dark
to the
Souls
bottom of
2,
the
you're
castle. It's
talking
like towards
about?
the end of Dark Souls 2, and you fight big slow.
Ventric.
All right, I was
He's
not.
big.
All right,
yeah,
a
you were
V.
not that bad. I would say there are some bigger ones, but they tend to be like things that are in place. Basically, there's a Dark Souls 3 boss that is like a big tree.
Yeah, the tree is big.
That is huge, and then like the biggest one is a cheat, which is it's the dragon in Sekiro. But you're not like fighting it up close. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
But it's huge. It's in the distance and it's huge, right? And this is anyway. All right, we got one more.
There's the giant head on the ground too. Like there's just like a scale.
Yeah.
Like at least this game seems to be playing with like big.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right, this last one.
Yep. Confidential.
All right.
3, 2, 1, go.
Biz sessions. Let's go. Oh, this is just the game.
This is just the game. This is someone looking around.
Oh, this is just like B-roll, I guess.
Oh, sure. Someone standing up from what looks like a nexus point.
What a hat.
It's a wizard with a cool hat.
Nice robes.
It's good robes, yeah. Long sleeves.
This is like a boss.
Also, just
Is
want to
this like a
notice
boss?
the monitor that we're
character
looking
back
at.
there?
There's
Yeah.
enough identifying information on this video that this person is going to get caught.
Yeah.
Like over on the right hand side is too many objects.
Yeah.
Someone is gonna figure that. Someone is
Look
gonna
at that
scrub through the
moon.
Zoom archive.
Is that okay? There's like a giant moon reflected in the water, like
I
bisected
love
by
that
the
shit.
horizon.
Yeah.
It's sick as hell. Also, I think this person has a keyblade, is what I'm going to call this. That was like
Okay.
a keyblade to me. So
Fuck.
Do we think this is like
This is a
was like
boss.
a classic? Yeah, you've
Yeah.
walked into the boss arena.
Yeah.
Boss
I see a
stands
door.
up.
If you scrub through it around 16 to 17, you can see a door at the end. That
Yeah.
seems like a door you've probably
you
walked
walk
in.
through that fog gate. Here's a thought.
Oh, you can actually
here's-
see. I think the player character.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the player
background
character
there.
at the
Yeah,
very beginning. So I think that's what that is. Player character, just someone in armor. At the beginning, when you were looking around this room, there was like these 4 things up in the like rafters. I wonder if those are going to be part. This is like the most. We're doing like MCU trailer speculation here. I know, but I'm
60,
curious.
the 60 Easter eggs you didn't notice. In the,
I'm curious if this has to do with the boss fight. This feels like showing you that part of the room. Could be. We've built some cool art assets up there. You should look at them before this fight happens.
Look at these dope clocks we made during COVID.
Could
Come on,
be.
appreciate the clocks.
Could be, hey, this is a part of this boss fight. Think about how you're going to use these things to fight this weird wizard. And we've never really seen that style of, or maybe we have, but it's not. It doesn't come to mind right away. That style of like environmental boss fighty, like puzzle stuff.
More
I guess there've
gimmicky
been some
stuff.
puzzle
It's not
bosses.
based on just like the mechanics or like
Yeah.
the gimmicks and mechanics of the boss design itself. Yeah,
Totally.
that's definitely
So
true.
that's footage. It's real.
Yeah, it's real. It's real. I'm excited. I am genuinely interested to see, especially sort of in light
Oh.
of the Pokemon stuff of like Nintendo also just embracing what if big and like what does that mean for the design. Well, because that was part of like my argument, like in Bowser's Fury, is like big is like open world just means so many different things, and it's been commodified by Ubisoft in a way that has like broken our brains on like what that. Like people have forgotten
mean?
Metal Gear Solid 5. Like
Right.
that game was open
Sure.
world and it did like really cool shit. That isn't like the normal stuff we associate with it in the annual games from Ubisoft and its ilk. And I'm just so genuinely curious to see what does From do. Is it really just like, hey, this is just like a fancier way of getting from point A to point B, and you can do some fights along the way? Or am I doing exploration? Am I finding little caves along the way?
I'd love
Like,
to find a little cave. Let me tell you. My
just find a
mood
little
right
cave
now.
and go in there and
Ugh.
never leave.
Just never leave. That's it.
What? Elden Ring? Who? Don't know her.
I will say, I
What
wasn't-
drives you to seek the Elden Ring? I wouldn't say I've been seeking it, Bob.
Yeah, we should talk about that Pokemon event. There was a Pokemon event, and we talked about the response a little bit. When was that? Was that Saturday? Was that Friday?
Friday
Cado,
morning,
you
yeah.
shuddered as if you had been wounded personally, as if you'd seen the shit.
Just Pokemon, a large section of Pokemon fandom really just showed its entire ass after that event. A lot of complaint, like a lot of really just angry yelling about graphics in a way that very, like is like I don't
True,
think,
but also that frame rate sucked. Like,
I'm shocked. I'm shocked they showed that game because of that. they need to release that Switch 2, that Switch Pro, so that
I mean, you're right. I mean, like, you're right that people were like being hyperbolic to the point of like ridiculousness. But
Yes.
I was watching that on my I was like watching my kid, and I had that playing on the iPad, and I was like, what? I was like, maybe it's just I was having some bandwidth issues, and I was like, maybe there's just some sort of problems with the stream. But then I went back and watched like the art guide, and I was like, no, like, I mean, obviously frame rate is like one of the last things ironed out in the development process, but usually companies work around that in the way, like, there's a reason they show games on PC before they show it on like the console. Hey, Nintendo's credit not doing that shit. Like, but at the same time, it also feels like it's misleading because it will assuredly look better than that, even if there was no Switch Pro.
Hopefully,
but I do think it's increasingly clear that even Nintendo is like butting up against like the extremes of like the Switch hardware, even as they continue to release games for like that game will not get canceled for the regular Switch. Like, even if there's another machine, that game will come out for it.
That's the thing. There was even stuff about the other. There's like so there are three kind of big announcements there, right? New Pokemon Snap, which generally like that looks cool. New Pokemon Snap, new ways to take pictures of cute Pokemon. Great, love it. Then there was a remake of Diamond and Pearl, which were the original like DS Pokemons, and that had like a different art style and a different like it looked like the lighting was kind of off, or like kind of like what's it called, like overcast, like everything looked overcast in a way that a lot of people were ragging on in like a very, again, like it's like, yeah, sure, like that looks kind of off, or like I don't like the chibis, but I'm like fine with it. Like I'm not gonna yell about it on the internet in a way that. Right.
I mean, this is the thing. Is like we're all gonna like. I had problems with these, and what I did was DM my friends about it. I put it in the group chat. You know what I mean? Like there was a difference between that and like yelling about it in a way that's, I don't know.
Everyone has a
there's
good
like
group chat.
That's exactly it. Get a good group chat. You need it.
And there's specifically the like difference between like being like, I don't like this, or I don't agree with this design choice, and being like, yo, Game Freak sucks ass, and like, right,
it's done.
Specifically
Pokemon's
insulting,
man.
Exactly, specifically insulting devs, or like even targeting devs in that way. It's like never really a good thing, never a good thing. And then the last thing was Pokemon Legends Arceus? I don't fucking know. I play these games. They didn't have voice acting. Nobody knew how to say Arceus. I'm sure someone said it during the stream. I don't remember.
Arceus. I would go Arceus.
Arceus?
I would.
Yeah.
Because
it's
Arceus like sounds like British
Arceus.
Like
I'm looking at the katakana right now.
It's Arceus.
Yeah, I believe that's Arceus. It's wait, one second. Let's see if I remembered this. I'm really bad at this. I've lost it. Yeah, it's Alu Se Usu. Yeah, so it's Arceus. Yeah.
Great.
Which is, weird.
Yeah, so that game is like looks like an open world. Like I made the comparison to their Breath of the Wilding of Pokemon. They even have that. There's a comparison shots going around of like that one shot from the original Breath of the Wild trailer where it like zooms out over Link off of the Great Plateau over to like the rest of the map. They do a similar thing here, which in concept looked really interesting, but as people noted, there was a lot of like frame rate like it looked like some of the Pokemon walking, like there's Pokemon out in the world, right? You're sneaking up on them. You're throwing Pokeballs out to catch them. You can also battle in the open world, and like how that all fits together is going to be kind of the linchpin of whether or not this works or if this is interesting.
An open world action RPG at some point in the presentation. And I was like, "Word?"
What?
Because it just looks like you walk around and then do Pokemon.
Right.
Like, where's the open world stuff that isn't just it's a big map? Where and then where's the action RPG stuff that isn't just like, is it a sneak attack? Are they counting it as an action RPG because you can sneak through the grass and like
you can do a dodge roll?
Right, sure. Show me a dodge roll. I didn't see shit.
No, there was. It was in the trailer. That was one of the things.
I missed the dodge roll. Apologies.
There's a person dodge rolling between two things of grass as they like stalk some Pokemon.
Okay.
Right.
So they're not dodging. They're just rolling. it might be a dodge roll.
Sure.
But no, I think there's a lot to like about this project. The idea that, like, so for Patrick and Rob, who presumably didn't follow this when it was coming out.
I did.
Okay.
Oh.
All right. I guess you said you saw the frame rate. That's true.
Yeah, I was watching.
Patrick's always on the lookout for that one Pokemon game that's going to be the one that clicks for him. Like,
It
he's
is.
always
I
like,
wanted- yes.
hey, maybe this one. It's been
This is the
25 years, but you know.
I was a Pokemon obsessive as a kid. You know, Red and Blue came out when I was in middle school, and that's like all we did on the bus with, you know, the one kid who had a link cable, so you could trade the game before we had wireless.
It's always
tech.
a good time to get into Pokemon, as Walmart has illustrated. They finally came out as Pokemon fans, and they put Pikachu right to work as a greeter.
So what is this a reference? I missed this.
You didn't see? Oh, there's
No,
like
I
very
missed
popular
this.
tweets going around the last couple days.
No,
It was a part
I'm
of
doing my best to be on Twitter less.
fair.
Move. Walmart put up after 25 years, we're making it official. Welcome to the team, Pikachu, or something like that. But the point was they did a little like render of Pikachu, but wearing the blue Walmart vest with the name tag. The best reaction to that I saw was, I can't believe Pikachu fucked up his retirement, which was pretty mean. But
That's
also,
Do you think that they're giving Pikachu just enough hours that he doesn't have time to go get another job somewhere else, but few enough that they don't have to give him benefits?
yeah, he's like
Yeah,
at 29 hours.
Yeah, he's at 29. Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Also, you know, you didn't go to Walmart to get Mewtwo. Like, you went to Toys R Us. So shut the fuck up, Walmart.
Fuck up, Walmart. You didn't have Mewtwo. Y'all fucking helped kill
shit.
Toys R Us.
Hey, this reminds me. I forgot to let everyone know that I really enjoyed the Pokemon movie.
Oh.
Oh, I thought,
Wait,
I thought that was like
Detective
Rob's brain
Pikachu?
pronounced that he didn't hit record. He's like, I forgot. But this Pokemon conversation reminded me,
Do you mean the
Cado.
original Pokemon movie, or do you mean Pikachu, Detective Pikachu?
Detective Pikachu. Sorry.
Yeah, it's a good
I know
movie.
that the Pokemon movie is a different thing.
Yeah,
But
it's called the Pokemon movie.
Which is
When
very
did you watch
confusing because now there's
Detective
two.
Pikachu? There's more.
there's a lot more than
There's a lot of
Pokemon
Pokemon. We
movies.
can't go down this road. But how did you tell me about your Detective Pikachu experience?
Well, sometimes one just has a day where, like, I need the silliest and most trivial thing possible.
Yeah.
And Detective Pikachu's right there. And it turns out it was charming.
Hell yeah.
Do you like seeing the world with all the Pokemon in it and all that?
Yeah, like them building a traffic detour around a snoring Snorlax in the middle of the street was cool. It was a shockingly well cast movie for what they're doing. It's just so weird. It's so weird that it is like an actual like mystery. Like detective story, including like a really gnarly interrogation scene of the mime Pokemon
Mime,
where
yeah.
he starts miming soaking it in gasoline and lighting a match, and it's like, this is dark.
Yeah.
But also it was pretty hysterically funny. Surprisingly charming movie that I think, like, it's one of those things where I'm like, I wouldn't recommend it unless you're really in the mood to be like, just kind of shut your brain off.
Yeah,
and just
brain
kind of
off.
enjoy a weird
Head
conceit.
empty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a bit. It's a 90-minute bit.
Right. It's like what if SNL was good and did just a whole? But they kicked off an episode and they're like, oh, we're gonna do one of those digital shorts, and then it kept going, and it was a Pokemon detective story. I thought you were gonna say something else, which was that you wanted to say that you were officially joining the Pokemon cast as that character that looks like you from Pokemon.
There's a character that looks like me.
Rob was not part of that episode. Yeah, there's a character that looks
That's
just
right.
like you. We should debut this character to Rob, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
hold on.
let's go.
I got it.
Let me find. Do you have it? Do you have it on
think
deck?
so.
Do you remember the name?
Yeah, I remember the name.
It's- That's like a hiker, right?
Yes.
Zachney exclusive.
There's a couple here that look a lot like you, Rob. There's a hiker class, which is like great in my mind because it's like if you got transported to the Pokemon world
Here we go.
and you were just like, you know what, I'm gonna just go out in the woods.
I can
see
see
if this
myself doing
works.
that.
Boop. Boop. Oh, it's so small.
It's so small.
God
Just zoom
damn
in
it.
on that.
It's a
Yeah.
tiny little open
Let's-
original.
And
This
then
is
you
really
zoom
tiny.
in on it.
Cado, I think you
Yeah.
blew it.
Oh, buddy,
God damn
you
it.
tried. Well, let me see. How
I feel like we looked at another
one.
one that
bigger
was.
And there are a few. There really are a few hiker.
Is that better? I screenshotted it. It's a little bigger.
There you go.
Oh,
You get the
There he is.
Rob.
That's
What's up,
Rob.
You think I'd wear a
Rob's
hat like
hiking.
that though?
No. Well, in the Pokemon world, perhaps.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe I would.
You never know what's going to happen out there.
Those gloves
but
have a
there's, like,
slightly threatening energy too, if I'm being entirely honest.
Your foot stance is also like a little odd. Like
Well,
you don't.
you're climbing. Like that's clearly an action
yeah.
picture. So you have to imagine like broken ground underfoot. Yeah.
So there's a bunch of these, but you just go out there, you search hiker Pokemon. They just have
There's
your
thoughtful Rob.
entire nature.
Yeah.
But that's not a Pokemon. That's a different like.
That's a Pokemon trainer.
Yeah.
Okay, but it's not like that
Yes.
dude's just like out on a nice walk and people are like jam him into a Pokeball and like here's my
No.
Pokemon. It's Stan the hiker.
No.
Okay.
No. He has like lots of like rock monsters is my guess.
Yeah. Lots
Right?
of ground and rock types.
Ground based.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of Onyxes when I scroll down this. So Onyxes and Geodudes.
Yeah.
So
This
Hey,
does
find 'em
remind
up
me of before quarantine ends. Well, I guess it has in Massachusetts because we're going back to full reopening. Even
Are
though,
you?
What?
Yeah, they
buddy.
mind you, there's no vaccines. The vaccine rollout completely failed, and they have not even gotten through their at-risk categories. You still have to have 2 underlying conditions to qualify for a vaccine, which most people don't. So huge swaths of at-risk population not doing. But anyway, quarantine's over in Massachusetts. We won just by not giving a shit anymore, which is the arc of these things. But one of the quarantine projects I was considering, and this kind of dovetails with that, is I would love to try to get the Uncle Iroh beard thing from Avatar, but going for me. Could I make that work?
I guess the thing is, if you're out of core, then no, because you have to see people, and you could do it. If you could get to the end of that journey, Rob, you could pull it off. But the journey is rough. I feel right.
Because it requires a lot of styling, right? That doesn't just happen. You can't cut
Yeah.
the Iroh beard into existence. You also have to wax and style it.
I feel like you could get there, but it would.
But then there's the complicating factor, Austin, of you're not actually a cartoon character, and things look good on cartoons. Then I'm like, but would it look good for me?
No, because cartoon Uncle Iroh only does Uncle Iroh shit. Uncle Iroh never goes to the grocery store.
That's
you know what
great
I mean?
Right.
He's always
He's like,
just like,
time for my tea. And then you're like, yeah, get it, Uncle Iroh. But you can't you don't see Uncle Iroh zooming into a team meeting or something
No.
like that. No.
with the beard out of place because he hasn't had time to fix it yet because he was dealing with his dog. No, he just gets. To do
Okay,
the
so
cool
let me
shit.
know how's the investment of bossing Say going? Still bad? Okay.
Still bad? Oh boy. Briefly, I do want to say that I do think that Pokemon Legends Arceus game has an interesting premise. The idea of going back in time in the Pokemon history and doing what is basically a feudal Japan game in Pokemon is fun. I think that's a cool way to open that setting up. And for people who have played all those games and know those places, the idea of returning to those settings in different time periods is very cool.
It's
we'll
absolutely
see,
it's absolutely specifically to they've been wrestling with this segment of the of their fan base that is older than the games are actually normally pointed towards, and this feels like decidedly a shift, another shift towards being okay, obviously we have a lot of older fans. Something a little more complex is maybe what we should be doing.
The other thing that I keep thinking about is how many fans do you think are actually mad? And give me the most generous estimate you can.
Actually,
yeah,
I can give you percentage of people who like Pokemon over people who are actually mad. I'd say it's easily a quarter of people mad on the internet, which is when Pokemon is such a
people
big.
mad on the internet are Pokemon fans, or do you mean a quarter of Pokemon fans?
A quarter of Pokemon fans. Which the thing is, Pokemon is a fucking huge franchise, right? A lot of people like
it. If it's a quarter of people, if you're suggesting that a quarter of people who played Pokemon Sword and Shield, right, are mad at this, that's 5 million people.
Right.
I actually don't think it's 5 million people. I
think it's a quarter of your view of the online discourse, which is then brought further out to be 0.25 0.025% of the actual
It might be
audience of
bigger. Like,
Pokemon.
it might be 1 million people. It might be 2 million people.
Sure.
But the thing that like and this is a gut. This is speculation. I guess 20 million people could be mad at Pokemon. My feeling is that Sword and Shield got fucking hammered during its lead up for looking bad in many ways. And it sold 20.35 million units.
Right.
And
And
that was as
here's the thing is that those
months
people who
ago.
complain will also always still buy it. That's
Right,
that's,
of course. Yes.
So like, yeah, I mean, I think 5 million is a lot though.
Right? This is what I'm saying. Is it 5 million?
I mean,
like,
there were some fucking trending tags when that was happening about like graphics and stuff. Like graphics as a word trended, but it was all just about Pokemon.
yeah,
But,
of course, of
but
course.
like the
But
trending
you can get-
topics create more trending topics.
That's
like
true.
it's really, yo,
That's
what's
true.
why are people talking about this? Time to talk about this thing that people are talking about. It's trending.
Elden Ring is trending right now with 9,000 tweets. Who the fuck cares?
Right.
No one cares about this shit. Twitter is, like it's the scale of reach is very limited. And obviously the Pokemon conversations are not only happening on Twitter. They're happening in Discords, on Pokemon fan sites. Like I know that that's not limited to Twitter at all. And it is big. I'm conceding that it is one of the biggest fan groups in the world for sure. And they take this seriously. And there are things that I understand a little bit more. Like I get why people were frustrated during the thing where your past Pokemon couldn't come forward into Sword Shield. Especially in light of them having just set up a service to bring all your Pokemon into like a center thing with the whatever Pokedex. What was that called?
Pokemon Home.
Central Pokedex. Pokemon Home. But there was something else, right? Wasn't there a name for weren't people mad about another thing?
Weren't they?
Well,
People
Austin,
mad about another thing?
Probably.
welcome to our spin-off podcast.
Oh my
I mean,
God.
on some level, even though I think it's easy to ridicule, and I think people are being ridiculous. It is like a game like this. Even though it's still inevitably going to disappoint people because like Pokemon is like far and away the most conservative franchise that Nintendo operates. It's always years behind what people want it to be for like reasons that are very successful financially, but frustrating to certain parts of the fan base. To finally like have them make like the game people have been talking about for like 20 years, like a big open space where like the Pokemon are like roaming around, and then to see that and also like it runs at like 12 frames a second. Like I understand it's kind of like my dream is a frustrated reality.
Right, yeah.
And like if what ends up happening is, this game is explicitly tied to like a Switch that has like DLSS and like upscale to 4K, and like you won't get 60 frames a second, but you'll get a solid 30. That'll be great, but we just don't, we don't have any of that information.
just
Also,
not there.
early 2022, my ass, that game is coming out like fall 2022. Like I don't believe any release dates for a minute.
Like all of the Sword and Shield, like they had those big like 3D areas in them, and like both of the DLCs were just that type of space. Like there were no like linear spaces anymore. It was all like, this is open world at this point. And that ran fine unless you were connected online. If you're connected online, you see people teleporting all over the place because they're like, that's just Nintendo internet is not good. But if you were playing offline, like there weren't any like hitches or anything in those open world spaces. So we know they can do it like on the like, if they know what resources they're working with, they can get it to run smoothly. So this definitely does feel like it's probably most likely just like either too early or tied to different hardware that hasn't been announced yet, so they can't show the like finished version.
Totally. We should take a quick break, and then we'll come back and stop talking about Pokemon and quote unquote news.
Yeah.
News like Pokemon and some Elden Ring footage.
Anyone
We'll
catch
talk about
that
some other
Post
stuff.
Malone shit?
I did not catch the Post Malone Hootie and the Blowfish.
Nah, me either.
Cado, I just want to be 100% clear.
Uh-huh.
That Hootie and the Blowfish song has no history with Pokemon, right?
As far as I know, no. I think they're
they
playing
just
off
like-
of like the I Choose You motif of like the original Pokemon like anime, right? Like you choosing what your starter is and all that. So like I only want to be with you as like your best friend Pokemon, like is what they're trying to connect it with. But as far as I know, no, that song has never been connected to any other Pokemon thing. It's bizarre.
Is he a big Pokemon fan? And they were just like, we'd like to do a collab with you. And he was like, all right, but this is the only collab we will do. Is I'm gonna I'm gonna come
it's
including
like-
the Blowfish song, and then here we go.
Isn't it the same? It's the same year too, right? Like they just picked a song from the year that Pokemon came out. That was like
that makes
thematically
sense.
the
25
most
year anniversary.
Right.
Yeah, sure. Hey, but like that's a song that has like lyrics like "You get so mad at me when I go out with my friends." Is Pikachu mad at Ash?
Yeah,
When
100. Yo,
He should be.
He's hanging
Pikachu
out
has
with,
almost
like,
killed
Brock and
Ash
Misty?
multiple times in the fucking anime. They're like at the beginning, it's rough. He does not like Ash. He like attacks him. It's a whole thing. Yeah.
Huh. Okay. Well, shout outs to Posty, I guess.
I was watching Emma while it was happening. That was a good choice.
Emma's good.
Yeah.
The 2021?
Yes. It's
The last movie I saw before. I think this is the last
Same.
movie I saw before.
in theaters before the
In
fucking
theaters.
shit
Yeah, I
hit.
went to
Yep.
Alamo.
Yep.
Natalie and I went to Alamo. It was nice. All right. Let's take that break. When we come back, we'll talk about some games we've been playing. All right, we are back, and we have some games to talk about. Where do we want to start? I think like the most topical thing is that Outriders demo, probably because it's a demo of like a game that isn't out yet, and so it's like a preview. And journalism brain makes me go, we should talk about the preview thing first, even though it's a demo, and in that way, it's the least relevant thing because you can just go play it.
Right.
Any opinion we have, you could immediately agree or disagree with by picking up the controller and playing it yourself.
Sure.
So maybe in some ways, it's the
you
worst.
could play that. I made that choice last night.
You're not happy with it. You're,
Wow.
you're like, "Ooh,
that game is not fun to control or shoot or move.
I think I'm higher on it than you, but not like but I would not. If this was like, I'm not going to go to the mat for it. You know what I mean? Like this is not a game that
You're fine.
care
Like,
about.
no, I every time I hit L2 to like come out of cover to shoot, I felt like the gun was in the wrong. I felt like I was constantly like having to drift the gun to the spot that I just did not enjoy. Like the opening premise of the game. Kind of interesting, and then they're
goes
like,
for
"What if we just
so
don't do?
long.
What if we just don't do any of that?" And then like the game has a separate second premise that it gets to like in
There's
about
like
halfway
30
through.
minutes. There's like 25, 30 minutes of setup in which it's like, oh, stuff was really bad on Earth, so a bunch of space colonists left to go find a new home. And
Yeah.
you find a new home, and then you do a bunch of like walking around, meeting NPCs, talking to them, learning about
Big
their life
green
story.
open area. There's animals that we're gonna colonize and dominate.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
We're gonna do
there's
that.
icky shit that's bad.
Yeah.
But it's like standard, like sort of like space bullshit. And it's like,
Mass
okay,
Effect
sure.
Andromeda shit. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you walk like, you walk away from the camp for like 5 minutes, and by the time it's over, there's been a huge space anomaly, weird like radioactive storm hits you, weird black goo in the woods. All of the stuff goes bad everywhere. It's like classic. It's like classic first 10 minutes of a sci-fi movie, right? It's like the beginning of Prometheus or something does this.
Sure.
Or the beginning of any movie where like then a second team shows up and it's like, oh, shit went bad for that first team. But instead, you get put into a cryo sleep. Your whole space colony team like turns on each other, and then you wake up 30 years later and everything's gone to shit. And everything is like fragmented. People are at each other's throats.
Corpses
They're-
are hanging from like
one of the
Corpse
factions-
Alley.
This
where
game
there's
is
just,
very edgelord in that way. Yeah, Corpse Alley is exactly right.
I feel like I was playing like this was like it was like a PS2, PS3 vibes were like really going on here, which usually I'm in for. Like I miss the like middle tier game with an interesting it was like game psyops, right? Like games
sure.
like that. Like I guess that's on the upper end of what you would want from an Outrider. I played an hour. I got enough to like
You
into
got
the
like
second.
to the hub and then didn't.
I got like my
do-
second power. No,
Oh,
I didn't even
okay,
get to the hub. I got my second power in the in the war zone and was like, I just don't even enjoy pressing the buttons in this game.
Yeah.
I'm going to play a different one.
I definitely was higher on it than that, but I also feel like this whole game is my like is like a monkey paw curling from a wish I had, which was like a year and a half ago. I said, or maybe 2 years ago, I said, I wish Warframe was just a more boring cover shooter. And I fucked up, and now we got it. Except I will actually say one of the things that actually does make me more excited about this, not excited, curious about it, let's say, is they've said, and I think I've said this in the podcast before, they've said this is not a games as service game. This is like a 35 to 40 hour game that you're going to beat. And if you want to replay it as another class, you can replay it.
But everything about this game screams, I am a game as service, like the Destiny and UI, the loot,
all the UI, the loot,
the powers, like fill up over time. It's like I know that
there's a huge like skill tree that you unlock would put points into. So like
big emphasis
it does feel
on
like that
hitting start and like a countdown timer happening and like joining up with your friends.
Your friends,
like,
all that shit.
If your marketing has to be going out screaming, we are not a service game, maybe like you've made it like a.
I think that like the actual thing there is like, you know what? I want one of these paced for 40 hours.
Sure.
Destiny is not paced for 40 hours. It's paced for 400 hours or 14 hours. Do you know what I mean? It's like, yeah, you can play the 10-hour campaign or the 400-hour I'm committed to this game week to week. But I would like to play a kind of mediocre third-person shooter or action RPG for 40 hours or something like that. That will scratch my brain in a way that like feels like something that you don't get anymore, because the games that are that long where the numbers go up tend to want more from you eventually.
Yeah, that's fair.
What class did you have? Because I ended up really liking my abilities on my main class.
With the fire one, pyromancer.
Yeah, I didn't fuck with the pyromancer.
I didn't like think about it. Like by the time I got to that point, I was like, all right, I'll go with the.
I hate it when that shit happens. Where like I will say the moment you pick your class is extremely funny. You get impaled on like some rebar, and then it cuts immediately from that to the choose your class screen.
Doesn't it? I mean, this is also a game that you can't go, at least in the prologue. I don't know if this remains true as you go further. Like the demo is like the opening act of the game, and then your progress will carry over. So it's really, when they say demo, like demo is like a fuzzy term these days, but this really does feel like an actual demo of this game.
Yeah.
There's just like, you can't go 5 feet without a cutscene, and the cutscenes aren't like genuinely interesting. Like, oh, hey, this would be really tough to do with the player controlling. It's like, hey, you got up to this bridge, and it's like, we got to show you climbing that bridge in a cutscene. It's like, why? Why do I have to show me climbing?
Funny bad one where you eventually get to like an open area that has a bunch of like branching area, like paths, and there's like a big solar lighthouse basically in the middle of it, and there's a bunch of side quests like around it. And there's one like gap between two ledges that you can't jump across.
Oh, I saw this on
you
Twitter.
Get the quest.
I know which one you're talking
about. And then
when
you get to the ledge and you have the quest, it plays a cut. It takes a second. It loads. It brings in a cutscene of you hopping across this little tiny hop. It's not like a big running huge like, oh, there's no way you're gonna make that jump. It's like a totally normal action game jump across. And they're like in a cutscene. So it's that stuff is weird. I think the writing, especially the lore writing, is rough. It's very like you find the diary of the evil gang lord, and he wants to show everybody on this planet that he's the meanest motherfucker there is. There's a name of there is a gang. I will say this, and I just took 2 playthroughs. I played with a friend with the second character. There is a gang called the Barkers, who, if you look around their like arena, they've written woof woof everywhere. They've written in graffiti woof woof. And it's like
woof woof motherfucker. Pow,
but there's like other stuff written around also. I'm trying to like look through a video to see if I can find more of the graffiti, because it'd be like like woof woof, it all falls down, like shit like that. Woof woof, King Barker, and it like, oh, this is the world. And then you get to this guy's diary, and it's like, I'm a mean motherfucker. You don't even know about me, woof woof.
I'm a bad dog.
It's so fucking funny.
Oh my god, that is such a Flight of the Conchords ass. Street game.
It's like the thing that they have written around is like no fate, and then underneath it says woof woof woof. It's like, What are you doing? No one's gonna take you seriously. I know you're the first gang in the game, and you're like a bunch of like fake Mad Max dudes. But I'm gonna kill you, and no one's gonna be sad that you're gone. Like this
I might be all in on this. Is the problem. I'm looking at this, and it looks.
Yeah, it's like a what if Gears of War didn't feel so good, but had more abilities for you to use.
But also, we're just absurd. There's something like. I love this pastiche of influences where it's like there's a little bit of Red Dead and like Lonesome Dove thrown in there, but then also post-apocalyptic and then Terminator 2.
Yeah,
like,
there's a lot of T2 in this, actually.
It's ridiculous. And the aesthetics of like, oh man, what do the white supremacists like to wear these days? But then also like cowboy outfits.
Long dusters. And
it's so good. It's so silly.
Rob, you should play this demo and report back because I will say by the end of it, there were a couple of moments where I was like, are they trying to do a Saints Row vibe with some of the writing? There's a character, one of the last quests you meet.
Literally thought you were going to say, when you said barkers, I thought you meant like carnival barkers, and I was expecting that to be the shtick.
No. Woof woof. There's a side quest in this game where your like hard ass commander is like, I need you to go get McCain. And I'm like, okay, what's up? Like, we lost Lieutenant McCain behind enemy lines and he's our best soldier. We got to get him back. And I'm like, all right, there's a context. Now listen, People Can Fly are not from America.
Sure.
That was probably not front of mind for them. McCain is a name. Go fight your way through the shit, fight a boss who has like ice powers or whatever. Go to a wall, a cutscene happens, you climb a cliff. And then on the other side of the cliff is like a bombed out like base. And inside is one of the enemy soldiers from whatever the name of the other team is. They call them like the Ferals or something. And there was a loading screen that was like, we call them the Ferals, but they like to call themselves the Exiles. I'm like, all right, why wouldn't you just call them the Exiles? It's not like it just give them the credit of calling them the thing they're calling themselves. And you pull someone out and it's one of the enemy soldiers. And he's like, whoa, listen, man, like we're all on the same side right now. We're all just trying to get out of this. We were all bombed in there. And then he like helps this guy out. It's Lieutenant McCain. And he's like, let me tell you, soldier, you're a real credit to your side or whatever to the other guy, pats him on the shoulder and then walks past him, turns around and shoots him in the back of the head and then throws a grenade back into the bunker to kill all the other soldiers who were still in there. And then you're like, what are you doing? And then he's like, it's war, soldier. And before he can finish his sentence, he gets sniped from across the battlefield, like does like a spin twist drop. And your character does the like, I wasn't even supposed to be here today shrug. And that is the way that they end up writing your main character as like,
you're just the guy.
You're just the guy. You're the boss in that Saints Row vibe. And it doesn't hit it. Like, I want to be clear. I think that was a standout moment where like, oh, they found it for a moment. Mostly it's people growling at you. There's a really bad cutscene with like a superpower guy who like tells you that you need to be the god to these people so that he could go worry about the other evil gods and you need to be the shepherd. And his name is Seth, and he's fighting someone named Moloch. It's it's really digging into some of those old references. And I don't think it's particularly good, but there is something about 40-hour mediocre action RPG that sounds good to me right now because it's February and it's COVID season. And if I could just have this game right now, it would like rub my brain. Do you know what I mean?
Sure. You'd be done with it in 2 days.
Sure. I'd be done in 2 days, but those 2 days would be all right.
And I think there is something, I don't know why I'm reacting this way. It is like, so often we see plot beats that are every bit as dumb as this, but carried off with a level of like polish and like veneer of like narrative and like technical competence that it's like, oh man, you're really taking this stuff seriously. And this feels ramshackle enough of like the ideas didn't really mesh. The universe feels like a little bit half built. That is really
or was built. Well, it feels often you play this game, it feels like, oh, this story has been rewritten 10 times, and what we're ending up with is not the 10th version. It's all stories as they are evolved, like our versions of the past selves, but like that's usually like streamlined and ironed out. And this, it just feels like, oh, like just all the ideas are here and their family.
This reminds me so much of like what like looking at this. I just saw the rebar scene. By the way, it's beautiful. Just chef kiss. All right, time to select your character.
It's so funny.
With no understanding of how the classes work or like no demonstration of powers.
No,
It's like,
none.
just pick one. You're
Just pick one.
good.
Just so you know, you're not dead.
God.
But this reminds me actually of Freelancer.
Sure.
That I think maybe that's what it is reminding me of is like, so Freelancer was Chris Roberts' post Origin game, where like this was kind of his first stab at Star Citizen. It turns out he's had one game that he's wanted to make for ages, which is like a huge MMO life sim space game.
Yeah.
And Freelancer was going to be the big game there, and as you might expect, it went in development for ages, and the technical groundwork wasn't there. The whole plan was never going to work, and they just kind of kept working at it. And eventually the game was taken away from Roberts, and they just kind of released it as a single player game. And what was there was kind of cool.
Yeah.
But it was
that
also
game's
very
all
funny
right.
because it was so unfinished,
Mhm.
where it was like, you could see there were parts of the main plot that were really detailed, and like entire quest lines were finished. And then as you go into certain zones, it's like, hey, are these other ships, like, is there AI for them? They're just kind of like drifting there, like models. Like you go to, and then the end game is just like the end game boss missions with nothing between them because they just ran out of road. And so I think maybe this is kind of like also reminding me of that. It's like, it's a bit like the pencils down version of a game release rather than like the final realized vision.
Well, and this is the beginning of a game that doesn't come out until like April or something. So like, who knows what happens after this? But
That little date circle on my calendar now.
April
Oh,
1st.
boy.
This seems like the kind of game
wow.
that, sometimes it's like, hey, we got to be like careful with like code and like who's going to get it. We don't have
we're
to
gonna
make sure
get
we put the right
code.
people. This game is just to be like, yo, we got a bucket of
We got
codes.
7
and like,
codes.
go.
Yeah, let's go.
Rob wants to play.
I'm going.
Does Rob's partner want to play too? Doesn't play video games? Don't worry, Rob's
Don't worry
partner
about it.
gets
You
a
can hop
code.
in on this. You can find a class for
50
you.
different beards, 20 different undercuts.
The character creator is not as good as I would want, but it's all right. It's better than the Destiny character creator at this point. Not in terms of like you can make a pretty person. Destiny's all of the people you can make in Destiny are basically the same pretty person is the thing.
Yeah.
In any case, the other thing I do want to shout out about this is I do think that they have like one really clever thing, which again speaks to Rob's like, hey, this starts as a really good design document, and then like what gets into the game. The healing mechanism is really interesting. Each class heals a different way, and so the 2 classes that I played were about like being up in people's grills, and so one of them was like sort of like the Vanguard in Mass Effect that has like a teleport forward, get into the shit type thing, but then also has a bunch of like slow time, like a bubble around you that slows things down, for instance. And that character class got healed when you killed people within like melee range, basically close up, and you just get a heal from that and a little bit of a shield. Another character class, the one that has like turrets and stuff, heals when any enemy dies who has been marked by one of their abilities. And so they're just about like debuffing and putting out turrets that hit a bunch of stuff and like supporting other classes. And so that class gets healed
Technomancer.
from that. Yes, the Technomancer. That's what you played at that event, right,
Yeah.
Cado?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
This game looks a lot better than it looked then over what is it? I forgot what the system
Was that
called.
Parsec?
Yeah, Parsec.
I
It
used
was
Parsec this
rough.
weekend to play a game that I know Patrick's played some of, actually, which was Haven. I played Parsec with Haven this weekend. I played Haven on Parsec this weekend with a friend, because that game, despite being all about like a relationship and like seeming like it was built for multiplayer, I guess it wasn't built for multiplayer, but it seems like it has like a multiplayer interest, does not have online multiplayer. I think it would be better if
it's just local co-op. I didn't even know the
Just-
game had two player support.
Yeah.
So that's news to me to begin with.
It feels sort of hacked in the way that's like, hey, we made a game about 2 people. 2 people should be able to play this. A person and their partner should be able to play this.
Mhm.
I mean, and also the leap to add network capability is for a game that like doesn't kind of need it. Like, I'm not surprised that the game just has it locally as opposed to not having
At all. Yeah.
Yeah.
So wait, really quick, Patrick, you did play that, right?
Oh yeah. I played.
I was going to give you a
played,
quick second to just say something about it. You probably played more of it than me. I played like the first
well,
90
it was
minutes.
like when I asked for like a list of games like in the beginning of December, it's like what are games that people really liked that people think are going to get ignored, and Haven was on that list. That game seems to have it's on Game Pass. So if you're subscribed to that, it's an easy way to get access to it. Like the short version is like it's this couple that is escaping from their society to be together because the society doesn't want them to be together for reasons that are explained as the story goes on. But like they're like kind of superpowered. I don't know if they're superpowered people or they just have futuristic tech, but like you can jet around on these like jet boots and like do weird flips around. They they can catch energy waves that are like in the grass and like it flies you into the air. You can't just fly, you have to like follow the waves, but the waves are like connected to different parts of like this floating architecture, like this planet that's kind of busted apart, but there are pieces of it. And then you can kind of like go between them by finding these different like energy bridges and then these like energy waves that you can kind of fly through. But like the main crux of the game, you do spend a lot of time exploring, but really the reason to play Haven is like the writing and the like dialogue between these two extremely horny characters. I mean that like lovingly. It's a game that is about like really feels like anyone that's been in like a relationship that is like very hot and heavy in like your like early mid-20s. Like it seems like there's a very specific like time and place that, and I could speak to that because I've since talked to the developers that they were like, yeah, we wanted to write a game about like people who were like 25 and like we're in love for the first time. Not even like high school love, but like you've done that, had the heartbreak, and then like you meet the person after that, and like what is it like at like the hottest, earliest part of that relationship.
Yeah.
But so a lot of this game is like two people like figuring out like love. They've separated from like the society that has prevented them from seeing each other, and they're figuring out like being together. And it's a game that like talks like surprising. Like it starts off like. It talks very openly about like sex and attraction, and then as the game goes on, like has very specific sequences where even I was like, whew, like what? All right, game. Like I did not know like the writing was going to be this specific about how what these characters are doing to each other, and it's not. You never see them have sex. It's not like a Mass Effect-y thing where like, hey, you've done the dialogue. Like now watch
watch this mediocre.
Now watch some
sex
poorly
scene.
choreographed like Showtime late
You can
night
sense how
pornography.
embarrassed they were making this animation. You should have gotten someone who was excited about it instead.
Yeah, and also someone's got to make the bad video game like semi porn before you get to like good choreographed like sex scenes. Like there's a reason games haven't done a lot of that stuff for all sorts of reasons, and this game just sidesteps that and like it's just dialogue. Like it is just text between, and it's voice act. I think the voice acting is really really good.
It's really good. Yeah, it's
I think
solid.
you buy the characters really well. And that's I fell for these characters and just was like really struck by like the tone of the conversations, like really fell for this whole world. But halfway through, I didn't really want to play it anymore. Like it becomes kind of a fetch quest to get certain things. And for whatever reason, I couldn't find the thing that it needed. And I'm like scrubbing YouTube videos and reading walkthroughs and got kind of frustrated. But yeah, I had a really good time with it. I should like a caveat, like folks have had some issues with the way the game frames. It's hard like to get with like story spoilers, like skip ahead 30 seconds, but like the couple like establishes like a link with like their the mother of one of the characters who the conversation can be read as trying to put them into I don't know, like a very like binary like understanding of how relationships work, and there were certain critiques of how the game. There's actually spoiler if you've already clicked that, had clicked ahead and you're still here. There's allusions to like the society having like forced conversion therapy as like part of the basis of how the society is run. The developers have since put out an apology saying that like none of that was their intention. There are story reasons for like why certain things are there, but it has rubbed some people the wrong way. And if that is a reason that you didn't want to engage with the game, period, it's not the focus of it. It's like lore implication. And like even the conversations with the mother is like very quick and then you're out. The game strikes me as still worth playing for the conversation, but I think it's worth caveating. Like if that stuff was like, that would be too much for me. I don't even want to engage with it at all. it's worth noting. But I had a really good time with the two characters in that game.
Yeah, I'm going to try to put a little bit more time into it. I had not heard that stuff that you just talked about. I'll dig into that and take a look just so I know what's coming up. Rob, I know that you've been playing some stuff. I saw a piece of yours go up on the website last week that was really interesting about a racing game. It was Art of the Rally, right? Or Art of Rally? Just Art of Rally? Great name.
So Art of Rally is an arcade racing game from Fun Selector, who also made a game called Absolute Drift, which some people really enjoyed. It's kind of a very stylized top-down drifting game. I didn't play it, but like people really seem to regard it pretty highly. Art of Rally, though, is it's a rally racing game, but I think the thing I would emphasize is it's worth looking up some screenshots because I think the art style is really the selling point here. It is a somewhat like low poly, simple, clean textures sort of aesthetic it's got going, with a lot of care and attention lavished on color palette and lighting. And so the entire game has this sort of dreamlike, clean, endless autumn or spring type feeling to it. And in any sort of, morning or twilight conditions, it's got sort of magic hour aesthetics. So like if you're driving through Sardinia where it's like covered in golden fields of like wheat or dry grass, it's just like just a sea of gold out there. When you're driving on like a frozen lake in Norway, it's just all like beautiful, like, hazy blue and white. And everything sort of looks a little bit like a toy set. And you will have like little like popsicle stick figures almost like lining the track. And so as you go skidding through a corner, you'll see the little popsicle stick figures like sort of scatter back the way crowds do at a rally race when they realize like somebody's overshooting the turn, which I think is where we get into what is this game about. It's about historic rally racing, and it's about an era in rally racing where it was much less well-governed and much less corporatized than it is now. And what that means is, in some ways, these are like the good old days of rally racing, but also these are days when the safety regulations were really poorly enforced and people were kind of pushing the envelope in ways that maybe wasn't wise. And the game kind of has a tongue-in-cheek sensibility about this. It's kind of saying like, in the real world, all of this stuff was discontinued because it was so dangerous. But here in Art of Rally, we live in an alternate history where all of this got to go on forever and ever. And here we go. And also, like, they make a really smart move. They don't bother with any old licenses. And so they've got a lot of fake advertising that is period appropriate. So like, which is a big deal, right? Like if you look at old races, it was all cigarette ads, like wall to wall. Like everything was like cigarettes and beer and like, oil companies. And when you have a lot of races, it's like, we've got historic cars, but you can't show a Marlboro logo. It's like, that doesn't look right, because that is a famous, like the car had this look, and unfortunately it is associated with this brand, but at the same time, the car was red and white with like a flanged red bar. Like you can't get away from that. So what they've done here is all the ads are fictionalized. All the car models are recognizable for like what they're referencing. So like, you don't have a Porsche 911. You have instead a German car like the 119. So they just kind of invert it that way. But they all have really cool different characters. And I think one of the things that got me off to a rocky start with the game is that it's actually much harder at the start than it is as you go along. Because at the start, you are racing on the shittiest cars in the game. Where it's very much just like 1950s and 60s sedans that were converted into rally cars, and they all just handle horribly.
Yeah, well, I touched a demo of this game like a year ago or something, and was fishtailing nonstop. I had a really hard time keeping control of it unless I was going slower than I wanted to be. But that's video games.
Yeah, so I was this close to bailing on it for that reason, where I was like, I feel like I can't, this is all bad. Like I just can't come to grips with this game. And then you push through into like the second tier of cars, And all of it, you suddenly start to feel like I'm amazing. I'm just a hero on these roads. I'm truly learning the art of the rally. And it's a pretty simple handling model, but it does get across how slippery these roads are. Like, you internalize when you take a turn off tarmac and go on to gravel, the handling quality completely changes, and you need to completely change your driving style. When you are doing a race through the snow, you need to pay attention to whether that road looks icy or not, or whether you're on plowed snow. But I think the main thing is that, like, it's just a really gorgeous game. It's just a really remarkable sensory experience to be driving through here. And, like, it's got a good soundtrack. The tracks are just long enough for you to sort of zone out and get into the groove. And there's no in-car camera. So, like, the camera on every camera setting is really pulled back. So it solves that problem of a lot of racing games where they look amazing, but you kind of just have to be so focused in on the road that you aren't super attuned to what surrounds you. This game's kind of designed to not let you lose track of that. And that also has a useful utility where it gives you just enough of a glimpse of the road ahead that, like, for instance, if you're entering a series of, like, downhill switchbacks, you will get, as you crest the hill, a view of that entire trail of mountain road. And you're like, okay, I need to keep in mind, like, probably the next 3 or 4 turns, even if they look fast on the entry, they will tighten, and there's a cliff on the other side. So I just need to, like, bear that in mind. And I think this touches on the thing you just alluded to, Austin. This is a game where you are really kind of trained to think that, slow is smooth, smooth is fast. And I think a lot of racing games where you're, like, on a circuit, if you have a bad start and you see the cars pull away, you're just like, fuck it, I'm done. I'm done.
Restart the race. Yeah.
Here, because it's rally and because things unfold in stages, you can have a stage where, like, a number of things went badly wrong. Like, you buried the car into a tree and, like, took damage, and you ended up, like, probably you finished the race like 40 seconds slower than the first place racer. You got your ass kicked. But one, there's a good chance that guy might also make a mistake on a future stage. But two, you can work those chunks of time back across the next stages. Like, maybe your car just wasn't good on this leg of the rally, but on this next one, you're going to really excel. And so you can sort of earn that time back. And so another nice thing that happens is you're alone there on the track. You do sort of learn that, hey, even on some of the races where it feels like you're crawling because conditions are so bad, because you were responsible, made the decision to, like, play it safe, you didn't make the mistakes that other people did. And so you can sort of sit there and be like, hey, it wasn't my best time. I wasn't super fast, but I got through cleanly, and I'm in a position to still be in this. If I have if the next stage goes well for me, I can claw this back. And the cars have a different enough feel as the ears change, as the different types of motors and weight distribution changes, that they all feel interesting, even though they're not complicated. Like, every new car, you're like, oh yeah, this one's got a little bit of it's got a little more torque, so it likes to fishtail a little bit on the power. Sure. This one's got it's got a rear engine, it's kind of weighted toward the back, so it loves to dive into corners and then slide out. And so there's just enough there to, I think, be really satisfying as a racer. But it's a game that I would recommend to, like, a lot of people, just because it is such a gorgeous and, like, mesmerizing game that, like, if you're coming to racing games for a sim experience, this isn't Dirt, this isn't Codemasters game, but it is probably the most beautiful racing game I've seen since, like, Forza Horizon 4.
It's really pretty. Yeah, I just did a search for Art of Rally speedrun on YouTube because I figured that would get me people who are pretty good at it. And even they are not perfect. Do you know what I mean? Like, even they are, like, skidding out here and there, but it's like, it feels like maybe there's enough leeway still in this scene to where, like, yeah, they can pick it back up, later on. And it's a gorgeous looking game for sure.
Yeah, so it's been something I'm putting a lot of time into, and I think genuinely, like, if you just like games that are really, really pretty, sometimes this is a really nice example of a game that the design of it is set up to let you appreciate the way it looks and the way it sounds, as opposed to kind of distracting you from it. So it's a really it really is a sensory experience in a way that I wasn't expecting, and it's fantastic.
Totally. Anyone else playing anything they want to chat about? I feel like I've dominated a lot of this and then handed it off to Rob. But Patrick, Cado, y'all playing anything you want to chat out right now?
Yeah, I've been playing Bravely Default 2.
Oh, right, that dropped. I almost bought that 3 times this weekend.
Yeah?
Because of the same and instead I played the Outriders demo. That is where my brain is at. My brain is at, I need to play a thing that I probably won't like that much, but will like enough to
I was going to say, like,
power.
I offered you the code first, and you were like, no, give it to Cado.
Right, because Cado's going to play it. Because I would have played it the way you play a Pokemon game, right?
Right. Oh, shit. 3 hours in. Yeah,
3
all
hours
right.
in, like, oh, right, yeah, this. Right.
Did you
I played the original Bravely Default for more than that, but but I didn't beat it.
No, yeah, I beat that game. One of the few RPGs that I've actually beat and got the like true ending on.
Damn. How you liking it? Talk to me about Bravely Default.
Very mixed for me right now. But we're still early on. I'm only 10 hours in, which is not very far as JRPGs go. But you know, I kind of expected this given Bravely Default because I so enjoyed the kind of mechanics and the way that they've set up their job system and all that in Bravely Default 1, but found the story like, okay, serviceable. This one starts off kind of worse almost, like more simplistic, but there's like a lot of like very obvious foreshadowing, and I'm like, okay, this'll probably pay off hour something or whatever, but I'm having so much fun with these fights that I'm going to continue, even if I would have bounced off if this was the story of like basically any other game. It's just like a very simple, like you are you're a traveler who's been shipwrecked. You have amnesia. You don't know what's going on. You get found by some people on a beach, and it's quickly swept up into following a princess of a now what's the word I'm looking for? Missing isn't the right word, but because countries don't go missing. Now defunct? No. This country doesn't already exist, and she's wandering the world looking for crystals.
Wait. This country does not exist yet?
No, already. It doesn't exist anymore. Right? The country is gone. So what's the word for when the country is gone? Defunct? Like a defunct country?
How recent? I think defunct.
Like conquered or just unraveled?
We don't.
Destroyed? Yeah, we don't exactly.
Are you sure
know.
You're sure it existed?
It definitely existed. People talk about like, oh, yeah, we heard. So sorry for your loss. Like every time
this is recent.
Yeah. Yes.
What happened to it?
We don't know yet. 10 hours in, I still don't know.
Like, I'm sorry for your loss.
That's all they say. That's all they like ever mention it. And like we haven't had the like heart to heart with the princess. So like you end up.
So the world knows what happened to this country.
Yes.
You're just not bringing it up in polite conversation.
Yeah, exactly. Like nobody's told me, the fucking commoner, whatever, that's following this princess around. There's a bit.
Why doesn't your character know what happened? How did your character not hear this story?
Our character doesn't know where the fuck they are. They land on this beach and have amnesia and like or like partial amnesia. They remember themselves, but then they're like, oh wait, I don't. It's implied that they may have traveled to a different universe. So in Brave Default 1, you accidentally make you uncover that the multiverse is a thing at the end. Sorry, spoilers for the end of Bravely Default 1. That game is old as hell. I'll put a marker. I'll put some timestamps though. So immediately when your character like seems to have light amnesia and it's like, oh, I've never heard of that country, my brain goes like, oh wait, is this actually because he's from a different world? That's probably more likely because he remembers other things about himself and where he was before he landed on the beach. So it's not really amnesia. Anyways, you're searching for these crystals that control like the elements. There's a wind crystal, water crystal, yada yada yada.
Video games. RPGs.
Yeah. So you have your group of 4 people, and the part that I really enjoy about bravely default. There are two things. Obviously, the brave and default system, which allows you to kind of bank and then use up turns, essentially. You use the default command, which puts you into the defensive mode, and then you bank a bravely point, which then you can spend to do basically multiple turns in one turn. Or you can spend them ahead of time and then have your characters just kind of sitting there waiting to recharge those points that you spent ahead.
Right.
Which is a fun wrinkle to turn-based RPG combat already in and of itself. And this one, they kind of mixed it up an extra step by making it, before it was all your turn, like your character's turns, then the enemy turns. This one is more like kind of active time battle, except that it pauses once it's someone's actual turn. But like you see the bar filling up under each of your characters, depending on their like speed stat or whatever. And the enemies have those too, but they're hidden, and it'll tell you with like little exclamation points of like, this one's getting close to their turn. So you have this kind of management of like, oh, like this is the next enemy that's coming up. I have to make sure to take them out before they can take their turn. A lot of the kind of like very strongly damaging moves this time around cost health, which is an interesting dynamic where like a lot of times you'll have a white mage character that ends up doing a lot of kind of like buffs that seem like, all right, like I'm just kind of waiting until everyone's hurt for me to use the healing move that is actually necessary. But this is like, oh, there's like this push and pull where I'm having my martial artist take a lot of damage from doing these really heavily damaging attacks. And then having the white mage have to come in and be like, okay, I'm keeping you topped up.
Right.
And what's interesting is like, this is necessary for normal battles in this game. Like a lot of times these sort of like kind of big, heavy, like, oh, I have to like go all out in battles.
Right, you
is
like
like
auto attack your way through random battles, and then you pay attention to like mechanics and boss fights is like one way in which JRPGs exist.
Yes,
right. That's
like,
one style of JRPG
for sure. And this is definitely not that. This is every battle is going to be like, until you're leveled up, at which point, like, so the way that it works is like you're on the overworld and you see the enemies, and you can do a little like swipe of your sword to like get a bonus as you enter the actual battle. If you come in from behind, you get another bonus. If they come in from behind of you, they get a bonus. At a certain point, when you're over leveled for them, they run away from you, which is always a fun thing to notice. It's like, oh, like I'm walking through this dungeon and I hit the end, and now I have to backtrack a bit to get out, and like, oh, I've leveled up enough that all the enemies are kind of running away, and it's like very nice. It's like, oh, this is chill. I'm good, because the fights are very like, even like the regular enemies get very complicated. I've had more than, I mean, I've gamed over a couple times in this game already, which is not a thing that like I feel like you do in most
happened
RPGs.
to Cado, pro gamer,
which is like not unless it's a boss fight, right? Like I'm not gonna KO to a random like thing, and like I'm playing Final Fantasy right now or whatever.
Right,
yeah, exactly. Right. So like that part is really interesting. It's really engaging to like play this game, like because I'm always engaged, and there's never that feeling of like, oh, I just have to grind out like levels, or I have to like grind to get through. Like it feels like you're always like, it's always hitting some bit of my brain where it's like I'm engaged in this.
That sounds great.
Gameplay. Yeah, that part is great. The job system is really interesting, where you're like mixing and matching different jobs that you can level up. You start out with like a black mage, a knight, which is kind of like a tank basically, martial artist, which is like your DPS essentially, and a white mage are like the first four that you get. And what's interesting about this one is like in Brave Default 1, you could have a class and a subclass, and what you would bring forward from the subclass was basically one passive ability, and then some of the command, like some of the actual active commands. In this one, there's a lot more passive abilities, and you basically have slots that you fill in. So like if you level someone's white mage job up to like 5, there's like, oh, you have a drain attack now. So whatever damage, like a percentage of the damage you deal comes back as health. So if I take the time to go over and put that on my martial artist, if I like leveled her white mage job up to where I need that to be to unlock it, then whenever she's doing one of those giant attacks that deal damage, a lot of damage, but also take HP, now she's getting some of that back on her own. Right? Like
Right.
there's all these sort of
cool.
interactions where like if you take the time to
Yeah.
level up something that's like this person isn't going to be the white mage, but I'm going to level up white mage on them in order to get that ability because it works really well with their main ability.
Right. That's fun.
Yeah. And so
Do you have to make it their main class for them to get XP into it?
yes.
Or can they? Okay.
Right. But if you have
Yeah.
if basically you set their other class as their subclass,
Right.
and then they
keep-
still have those abilities that they've been using before, right?
Right.
Um,
right.
Another mechanical thing that they've added from different from the first two games is weight is a thing now. Like you have different equipment has different weights, and you have to like think about how you're building things out. You can't just throw everything like the heaviest everything on everyone, and the weight is dependent on what job you're using. So like your caster's gonna have less abilities and all that. So like mechanically, this is all very interesting and fun and great. A good RPG in that sense, and like the story is just so simple that I feel like we could have gotten a lot further along in the 10 hours I've been playing it. Is the real thing is like, okay, like I know there's going to be twists. I know there's going to be turns. Like I know there's going to be reveals. You keep like foreshadowing them in the most obvious way. Just fucking get to it so I can see whether it's interesting or not. But it's like also like, I'm enjoying these battles. I'm enjoying going around and just like playing with the systems itself that I'm like, I'll finish this game probably. But yeah, early impressions are like story simple, gameplay very fun, very engaging.
Awesome. I'm glad to hear good first impressions. Maybe I will check it out. There's a demo, so maybe I'll just download the demo and like have that.
Cado,
What?
what did you do?
Yeah,
You're gonna make Austin spend 6 hours on a game that he'll then come back and go.
Yeah, I played it. That was cool mechanics. I'm
Yeah,
gonna repeat the things
cool
Cado
mechanics.
said,
Yeah.
but I'll be more long-winded about it. Cado was more brief and to the point. Maybe I'll really like it. I really liked that first one. I got distracted by playing other stuff.
Right.
That's what you do.
Right.
You know?
Totally.
All right. Anyone else want to shout anything out? I have a quick one, and we'll talk more about it next week probably because I'll put more time into it. But Fights in Tight Spaces. I know Rob, you started playing that too a little bit, which is like a card game. It's another card roguelike, but it's there's a tactical battle element in which you're doing. I think my first two thoughts on it were like it's like a John Wick or a Super Hot, but like what if it was like a card-based tactical thing? But that's mostly aesthetic. What it really is that bathroom fight from that most recent Mission Impossible movie where you're kicking people into like bathroom stalls and breaking their heads on the wall and all that shit. Cocking your arms like they're shotguns. It's cool. It's cool. I had like a bad first impression of it because it's like, all right, you're fucking in it now. There's a lot of cards. Like, get ready to learn these cards and go. And I like cards, but there was like, I think maybe the added layer of there being a tile-based map where you're moving your character around. I was like, all right, I'm going to be a little overwhelmed. But then within like 3 or 4 battles, I had totally gotten it. I understood what type of character I liked to play. You unlock a second and a third deck pretty quickly. And I'm enjoying it. Rob, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's neat. I think it is an adjustment I had to make is I think a lot of card games that get hung up on like I need to be maximally efficient, always be doing things. This is a game where there's an alternate movement option for a lot of cards, and that's there for a reason. Like this is a tile tactics game where sometimes you just need to like redeploy and get out of the way. But the trade-off there, and this is kind of interesting, thematically consistent with a lot of fight scenes in movies like this. Once you're, in close range and you have that, cool CQC shit where like just like flurries of moves are unleashed, you basically build up like a momentum charge as you go and you get more and more powerful moves. Every time you move to a different tile, not as part of an attack, you lose momentum. And so you sort of slide back down the power level. And if you keep moving around, you will get to a point where all you can do is kind of basic punches and kicks. And so there's kind of a cool trade-off there of like, hey, there are times when you just need to relocate. You need to change positions in this room. But there's also a lot of reasons why you just want to stay in people's faces and just keep building up that charge because it looks cooler and you can take people out way faster if you're unloading with these heavy attacks. So it is neat. I think it is a pretty cool like deck builder, and I also need to put more time into it because it's a cool concept. I just don't know how it builds out into a game.
Yeah, I just like to give people slightly a little bit more is that like you are a character you're like a secret agent in a suit. You're a James Bond, right? You're an Ethan Hunt. And you're being put into these little arenas with like, 4x6 or something in terms of tiles, maybe 6x6 and a bigger one. And enemies drop down. And they have different behaviors that you can see what they're going to be. And like, okay, someone's going to step forward and kick you and move you one tile. Two guys have guns and they are going to like shoot forward if you are in their line of sight or in their like crosshairs for even a second. And so on top of like trying to dodge that stuff with your cards, and your cards have things like move one tile, or throw a punch for 6 damage, kick someone and slide them in and out of places. You're doing a lot of that style of like move people around, or move yourself around to try to like make them hit each other. You're doing that great kung fu movie thing, right? You're doing that Jackie Chan shit of like, aha, you were going to hit me with the welder, but I've done the move that switches my spot and another enemy spot. And so then you're going to weld your friend's face instead of mine. And that stuff feels very good. And I'm enjoying it. So yeah, again, we're early into it, both of us. So we'll have to check back in next week with it. I'm gonna try to play some tonight probably and keep up with it. So, anything else anyone want to shout out really quick before we wrap up?
Little Nightmares 2, very good.
Little Nightmares 2.
started and finished that in the last
you played
week
the whole
or so.
thing.
Yeah, it's like 7 hours long. It's pretty short, but the first one is like really gorgeous and wasn't that much fun to play. But it was absolutely worth playing for the visuals. They're really striking and disturbing in a like fun way. Like they're upsetting, but it's not gory. It's not violent. You know, it's you in Little Nightmares 2, like one of the like main creatures is this teacher character that stretches its neck like the creatures from Beetlejuice to come get you.
Fun.
So it's like upsetting, but it's not in terms of like
it's
other
not gory or
when we think of horror, I think that often it comes you conjure a certain image, and like this is definitely like, oh no, I don't like this, but not in a way that as like body parts being torn to shreds. And so this one is a better game. I like the mechanics of it a lot better. It still has the problem of the first one where it's very physicky, and so it's like very easy to just like get caught on the corner of a table. It's very trial and error-y. Like that is just how it is built. It is hey, you are not going to know what to do in here, and then you're going to die, and you're going to do it again, which is a weird way to frame a horror game, because often it's under, like, this game has a lot of chase sequences where you're running from a thing, and it's like, great, I get to do the chase sequence again because there was no room for error, and I didn't know that I had to go around this table. And then even when I do know how to go around this table, if I don't go around it at the right specific angle, like the arm flap gets caught, and like you run out of time. But all that said, the visuals are so striking and so weird, and the creature design is so entertaining and upsetting and it's so short that I can't help but recommend it. It's even on Switch. I don't know how the visuals like look on that version, but it's I played it on PC, and I guess they're doing upgrades to the PS5 and Xbox later this year, but you can play it on those machines, and it's a really good time. I definitely recommend it.
Cool. Anything else?
I'll just shout out, I wrote this up a bit on the website. So for Valentine's Day, MK surprised me with a copy of the art and making of Control, which is a Control art book.
Very cute.
But, so I was prepared for like, hey, cool concept art, work in progress renders. Like, I'm cool with that. I love Control. No, it's a really detailed making of book. And really beautiful, like, it's like if you ever worked in like print media at all, or just enjoy like old magazines, like it's kind of layout porn as well, just in terms of like how it's all presented. And so it ends up being a really detailed and comprehensive look at like how different parts of Control were conceptualized and iterated on and then worked into the final versions that we encounter in the game. And it just ends up being a really good document of like what the different people working on different parts of this game were kind of thinking as they built the game out. And sometimes it is really kind of striking because Austin, on the other podcast, the Star Wars podcast we got a question like on our Q&A where it was like, are you guys sure you aren't just like overthinking stuff like always and like that there wasn't this much thought put into it?
Patreon.com/civilized.
Fuck off, Patrick.
On that one.
Patrick,
It's very
eat
funny.
shit. I don't even want to hear it. Mute yourself.
I wrote that question.
That was Patrick. Yeah.
But yeah, so this book is actually a good illustration of why there's probably not really a maximum amount of analysis you can bring to something, because it turns out like there's somebody thinking through this shit on really profound and deep levels. Like when you get to the costuming section in this, where like what each of the characters are wearing, like I was definitely in a mindset where I'm like, hey, cool costumes. And it's like, no, the people who built these models and like figured out what they're going to wear were like really communicating specific ideas about the character and the aesthetics of the universe. And you're leafing through this and you're like, oh shit, like I didn't even see that. That's really cool. And that's kind of happening every few pages in this book. And so I think it's like, I love Control, so no surprise that I'm definitely the target demo for this. But I think it's also useful for anyone who kind of wants a really interesting look at how game development works and unfolds and like what the role of different types of concept art really are. It does have a bias toward the visual elements as opposed to mechanical, but like they get into, they're really frank up front. They're like, hey, so conceptually, we did play around with this idea of, wouldn't it be cool if the oldest house was truly a shifting place and like it was constantly rewriting itself and like you never knew where you were. And they got to like early prototyping of that and they were like, hey, turns out that's not workable. It's not workable technically, and it's not really workable from a player experience standpoint. So they're kind of really frank about conceding that, of course, there's a divide between the wild magical like lore of Control and then kind of the traditional third person shooter shit that it is able to do when you play it. They're very frank about like it had to be that way because you can't, it turns out at least they couldn't, and I'm not sure anyone could make a really good shooter where the levels are rewriting themselves habitually.
Right.
And it's why they say like the ashtray maze is all smoke and mirrors. It's a really small level that they decorate really aggressively to trick you, but they're like, it's not actually the most interesting space in the game. The one thing that is a little bit weird to me, and I mentioned this, is that in the part of the book where they're talking about how Control is all coming together, they really put Sam Lake at the center of that story. And that struck me as weird because I feel like in the run up to Control, Sam Lake, who's always been sort of the main creative director and narrative guy at Remedy for ages, like going back to Max Payne, like the Max Payne model is Sam Lake. I feel like with Control, I never got the sense that it was a Sam Lake game in the way that like Alan Wake is, like through and through kind of like a Sam Lake narrative. I never got that sense about Control. I know that like Anna McGill was listed as like lead writer. I know that there were other narrative designers who, if you go through and you look at promotional stuff, there were a lot of other people Remedy had out front talking about the narrative of this game. And it's a little bit weird that in this book, it's kind of like, oh, it's all just, Sam had these ideas. He was working on them for ages. They were so exciting. Oh, Sam, what are your influences? Well, did you know Sam Lake loves David Lynch? You ever heard that one? And it's just a little frustrating because I would have been curious. Like Control does not feel in some ways like a typical Remedy game. Like there is a change of voice and style. I know that house style pretty well, and Control feels different, but they sort of go back to Sam Lake's kind of our creative lead on all this, and it all comes from him. And I'm like, no, Alan Wake, maybe that's true. Control feels different, and I feel like we kind of missed that jump, because it does feel like when they're putting this book together, the people who are around to contribute to it are not necessarily the ones who were there for the entire launch cycle of the base game, which is, I understand how that happens, but it's still kind of there are parts of the making of story that I feel like we don't quite get to hear, just because we kind of go back to the well of, the old school Remedy crew, talking about their arc.
Totally. That sounds great. That sounds like a really cool thing. I need to finish Control still. I'm the person who fell off of Control on this podcast. After
you should make sure and go. Well, I don't know if you have PlayStation Plus, but it's like worth going and like redeeming it.
Just hitting
so that
the
you
button.
Get to keep access to it.
Do they have does that give you access to the upgraded version now?
Yeah, that's the version they put out on PlayStation.
Oh, good.
So it has like the performance and the ray tracing versions.
Nice.
Yeah, I downloaded that because I wanted to play the DLC, and then realized my save was on the PC, so I have to play all of Control again, which would be fun. But it's like, I'm probably not gonna. I'm probably not. But I hit that button. I can do it. Just like awesome.
Yeah,
Maybe by Bravely Default, and
I'm just gonna get the demo. I'm gonna get the demo. I bet that demo's like 5 hours. That's probably all I need.
I think the progress carries over in that demo too.
See?
Square usually does that stuff with their games.
That makes sense. Totally. I got one question here from someone who wrote in, and we'll hit that and we'll go home. Gaming@vice.com is the address for that. This comes in. Yeah, you know what I mean. Like metaphorically home.
Sorry.
Waz writes in, when it's 9 p.m. and you realize you got to eat something, but you don't actually want to cook? What's the best, and Waz says, what's the best meat, cheese, and crackers combination have on hand for this situation? Continuing, I feel salami is a good one because it lasts a long time and it's not exactly healthy, so it feels like a treat. But I want to open it up broader. When it's 9 p.m. and you're like, oh, I fucked up. It's actually, I missed dinner.
Yeah.
I got busy with work. Whatever. Like, what do you do what's your go-to fix that situation?
This is a frog question.
It depends.
Question?
I can't answer. I have to like bow out because
Fraught,
like
I see.
dinner is just scheduled. Like
right,
other
you're
people
living
have to be
a good
other people
life.
have to be fed. Thus,
Right.
Also, I eat dinner too to like contribute to that. So this is like I have. I'm curious. I want to know what Rob looks upset.
I'm curious. Why is this?
I feel like Rob's going to reveal some things as a result of this question that he feels uncomfortable doing so in the course of this podcast.
Yeah.
Like that's the reaction I got watching him when he was like, "Oh, I don't." He doesn't want to speak these things into a microphone.
So here's the thing.
Yeah.
We all been there. We've all been like, oh shit, I'm hungry as hell. I shouldn't.
Yeah.
But here's the problem that I've started to encounter as I've gotten older. Eating at 9, it's like good chance you're gonna end up with a second wind at like 11 at midnight, because it's like you got that energy and like it doesn't feel good to just, these days, I can tell when I got a full tummy, I don't want to lie down. I want to stay up and like just, I don't want to lie down on a full stomach.
Watch another episode. Do play another level of a game. Stay up until you lose that energy. Burn through that energy. Read another chapter.
But the danger is that maybe you get so much energy that suddenly you're looking at the clock. It's like 1 o'clock and you're not sleepy, and yet somehow you're hungry again. And so then we're just off to the races. Now we're tipping close to all-nighter territory, where it's like you have another little snack, and next thing you know, it's like 4 a.m. and now sun's almost up. Like, what am I even doing?
Patrick caught you just now with the rock one eyebrow raise. I've never seen Patrick do that before.
What is happening? I didn't do this back when I could do this stuff, where I just like stumble into like 4 a.m. time to just keep go to bed. Go to bed. You can sleep till noon. Go to bed.
Yeah, but I just ate. That. So I'm like, I don't know.
You need to stay awake for your body to I can't waste this food by fucking sleeping. Well, I need to enjoy the fruits of the labor of my energy processing.
of my
I will
snack
say this.
tray.
So I have like a weird like reflux situation too. So that does contribute to it. You have to start
it needs to get through it.
Yeah.
I gotcha.
But that being so, But sometimes you just got to eat at night. So there's kind of two answers to this with these things in mind. If you really just want to play it safe, I'm like, there's usually some hard-boiled eggs around the house or something. Just have a little snack to like, get a little protein, like blunt that hunger. Won't really like, turn you. You're not going to get like the munchies after having a hard-boiled egg. That's not really going to happen. But if you're like, I'm going to dig into like some, charcuterie is dangerous because that is my go-to. It's like, I'm gonna cut a little Rossetti Leon salami. Gonna have a little prosciutto, maybe a little speck. Got some nice different cheeses there. Oh, you can put different little got a little tapenade, got some olives, and next thing you know, you're like kind of feasting, right? But not all at once. You didn't do it all at once. You just keep going by the cutting board and be like, "Ooh, that breeze even softer."
You have to make one plate and stick to it. That's it. That's the rule. Put it all away. Never open it again. You have to. That's the trick. Oh, Rob, buddy.
And
Rob.
also this sounds like there's like 90 minutes of prep work. So it's like, well, of course it's 1 a.m. You've like created a snack plate that is like, instead of getting the Totinos, you have to spend 90 minutes. And also you're going down to the bodega to go get some more. I need some more stuff for this snack. So I got to go, you know what? Actually,
well, fortunately, my
dog.
cheesemonger doesn't open.
Right.
No,
this is what I expected. Rob is just fucking, he has all this already, obviously. Yeah, Rob, stocked up.
Rob is the supplier for the whole building. Rob, what you do is, if you're hungry at 9 p.m., you go knock on Rob's door. And you go, hey, do you have any,
He's like, I made 6 extra snack plates, you can have them.
Well, Patrick, you're not even wrong, because
I'm also, nothing if not a good host.
Gotta leave things out for like 30 minutes to like come up a little close to room temperature. The flavor opens up a little bit more, so now it's like 9:30.
You gotta decant the cheese.
You got to, and that's don't even get me started. Like, pair that with a little wine.
Right. There you go.
But now you open a wine bottle, so
you gotta,
now what are you gonna do? Because you didn't buy. Look,
and forget if it's sparkling. You're gonna fucking close.
Thing where it like puts the little inert gas, so the wine is like perfectly preserved.
Yeah,
I'm just gonna open that shit, and I'm just gonna like, I got 2 days to drink this. Better make a dent in it tonight at midnight.
This was a fraught question.
Austin, what's your play? You're not.
I was gonna say a nice salad at night can be nice, and like
from
that's
where?
Fine. What do you mean from where? From where?
From whence?
My kitchen.
Yeah, you just got
what are your
salad
stuff.
Fixings? Yeah,
I just do like a very basic garden salad. I'm not a big It was only like I'd say 3 years ago I started putting cheese on my salad.
What?
Before that, I was like a romaine and like red peppers, onions, croutons. If I have radishes, I love radishes. I love that little kick from a radish. But I'll make I will eat tomatoes in my salad, but growing up, I did not like tomatoes. I was that person. So I like a very basic salad, but the croutons will fill me up because they're bready. And then I'm going to wake up hungry. Like that is not a pleasing, but it means I can still go to bed.
Right.
Because, it's not heavy. So there you go.
Depends on, for me, if I want sweet or savory. If I'm okay with something sweet that late, I'll go for a really simple PB&J. Like that's small enough, but also like
that's a classic.
Hearty enough that I'm like, okay, I'll good. If I want something hearty though, I'm definitely just gonna see whatever hummus I have around, and like pick the smallest amount of dipping things into the hummus. Because I will absolutely just eat an entire bag and finish it off a tub of hummus in one sitting if I don't portion out specifically what I'm gonna eat.
What is your go-to late night hummus dipping like surface? What are you eating?
I usually make it broccoli because I can't eat too much broccoli, but it still tastes good and is like better for you than like pita chips. Even though I have the pita chips, I want the pita chips, but I would just eat a whole bag of pita chips if I open it. Because that's
also I just realized I'm a Thousand Island dressing person for this salad, which is like a heavier like dressing.
Sure.
I'm not like a vinaigrette is like a great dressing for like a side salad. While I'm also gonna eat like a steak or like a chicken breast or something. But for like a standalone salad, I want a heavy like I want a thick salad dressing.
I want every salad to have that dressing that Japanese restaurants use, the ginger dressing from Japanese.
That dressing's
That's
great.
so delicious.
Yeah.
But like, I always forget.
There's probably a name for that. I should just look into what that
What
is
is
and learn
that?
how to make it.
I'm sure they sell that at stores, but I always end up getting like, oh, whatever, that's Caesar or whatever. Not even real.
Yeah, I like a Caesar dressing, but like a fake Caesar dressing. I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
No eggs involved in your Caesar salads, huh?
God.
I would probably eat more salads if I didn't have to make every dressing myself.
That would be an
Fucking
issue.
Turn off the
That would
button.
be.
Yeah, we're done.
I realize now I probably missed a trick here. Where I'm
Just
like,
find a brand. Find a brand you like. It doesn't. I'm not telling you that you have to be like. I'm not
You
saying
got
be
that
like
movie
me
guy.
and
That
Patrick.
movie guy's got some stuff for you, maybe.
I think they discontinued a few of the good ones.
yeah.
I think some of the nicer Paul Newman stuff is.
Yeah, there's no more good dressing out there. Rob Zachney's been forced to make his own.
No, it's you know what it is? Because growing up, that's all the dressing there was. So it was all my parents like it was Kraft like French dressing, which was
Sure.
basically
Yeah,
just like corn oil. Just
Right.
like
I grew up on that.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
but like it's one of those things where you had so much
It's just sugar. Yeah.
that
I
like
got
to this day I'm like Thousand Island like out of one of those bottles. I'm like I can't do it.
Yeah,
So
I get you.
but I'm playing myself here because I'm like sitting here. I'm like, oh, I would love a salad, but I don't want to have to whip together a tasty dressing first. Oh my god, I'm gonna have to make some sort of like.
You're playing yourself.
Yeah.
Find a and I understand that you're not going to go get the Kraft bottle. That's just not who Rob Zachney is. But find something that you can purchase that will make this one part of the salad making process easier for you.
I think we need listeners to recommend
Has-
like some really nice. Like imagine like you're at a nice restaurant. And you're like, damn, this salad is delicious.
Yeah.
What's the brand that's in a lot of stores that's like bringing that action?
Yeah.
My
Let us
problem-
know your favorite dressing brand.
My problem with salads is I never eat them fast enough, and shit always goes bad. I feel like every
I'm a fast when it's 9 p.m. and I'm like I haven't eaten since noon,
Sure.
which is the thing that happens a lot in my stupid life because I, unlike Patrick, do not have a good schedule. I'm like I'm gonna down this. This is just gone.
I just like
So
every
much
like
salad.
unit of like salad stuff is always like a little either way too much or like not quite enough because there's also I'm dealing with me and my wife, so it's like
Right,
the
sure.
2-person
Right.
thing is kind of we end up getting the bigger box but never finishing it,
Yeah.
you know, and then it's like shit, a bunch of
Cado, I will say, you know what I
leaves.
like about kale, and I know people hate
Ooh.
kale, but
Wait, why do people hate? Since when do people hate kale?
People
Because
just
it's
like
tough.
Kale down?
Yeah, it's like tough and
Huh.
you gotta
But
massage
that's
it.
because, but like Cado, this is why
Yeah,
I love it, is because it can just sit there dressed in the bowl, and
Right.
like 2 hours later, it's still good.
Right.
Whereas like you dressed romaine 2 hours ago, sorry,
that's
it's got a head start on
fucking God.
composting
Yeah.
at this point. Yeah, that's not food anymore.
Yeah.
100%.
That needs to be in your belly. That needs to be happening in your belly by the time that happens.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to wrap this up. Thank you for listening to our food chat. Thank you again for sending in questions. You can send them to gaming@vice.com. We will be back with one more episode of our Reset Roundtable this Friday. And then we'll be back to our regular twice a week schedule with Waypoint Radio starting next week, right, Kyle?
Yeah. Yep.
All right. As always, you can find us on Twitter at twitter.com/waypoint, waypoint.vice.com. You can find me on Twitter at Austin_Walker. Where can people find you, Cado?
At @A_Cado_appears.
Patrick.
Find me at Patrick Klubik pouring one out for Anthem. You know,
Oh,
they're better.
Dude.
Fuck,
I
man.
was thinking of Anthem a lot while playing Outriders and being like,
You know, it's a game that felt good to control.
Anthem.
Anthem. I reinstalled it. I might just go
Yeah.
fuck around in there for a minute. They added some stuff since I last played.
Sure.
Yeah.
They're not going to do that anymore.
Nah, I at least hope that flight stuff ends up in.
Something.
I hope
Dragon
Mass
Age.
Effect- no, in Mass Effect. Like I guess it could be. Sure, you can fly in Dragon Age. Why not?
Why
but I
not?
just mean like give me some sort of spacesuit in the next Mass Effect that feels as
Yeah.
good to control as that stuff. Yeah, too bad.
That's a shame. Rob.
People can find me in the kitchen making some poor decisions.
You're making good decisions, but you're making too many of them.
Yes, making more decisions while serving oneself some food, always a bad sign, right? You know, while this heats up, you know what I could have? A fistful of hazelnuts.
Exactly. Thank you to Bowen for letting us use the track Miss You off the EP Pale Machine. Find out more about that. Waypoint.zone/BOEN. That's it for us. We'll catch you in the future. Fuck capitalism. Go home. I got another news story. It's very important here, Cado. Let's see here. Darius Rucker says Post Malone's "Only Want to Be With You" cover is awesome. It's 1990s all over again, only this time it's the Cowboys, not the Dolphins, that are making musicians cry. In one of the random covers in recent memory, Post Malone has put his take on Hootie and the Blowfish hit "Only Want to Be With You." The artist, born Austin Post, is a diehard Dallas Cowboys fan and switched the lyric "I'm such a baby because the Dolphins make me cry" to "the Cowboys make me cry."
Oh my god.
That's very good. That's how it is. As for Rucker's response to the cover, well, he thought it was a touchdown. "The smile on my face will not leave for a long time," Rucker tweeted about Post Malone's version. "This is awesome."
Wow.
I love it when good things happen to people. All right.
It's funny how nobody knows what's up with that game. Like, I've asked
Right.
a lot of people over the course of a year, like not even for a story, just like I'm just curious, like what's what's up with that game?
What's
And like
happening?
nobody knows. Nobody knows. The only constant was always just like, oh, I think it's got a horse in it, and I was like, oh, okay.
It
right,
has
there we go.
a horse
Apparently,
in it.
which apparently it does. I haven't watched the footage yet, but apparently, so the one thing I saw was like it's got the rumored horse.
I've put this footage
there.
in the chat.
Perfect. Beautiful.
We can get sued for it, and we can't get sued for it. Discord
Oh, those were
would
under
send
8
us to
megs.
the
I could have just done that. Sure, that makes way more sense. Thanks for figuring that out.
Yeah.
Glad I could text you so that you
actually
could paste
don't know.
it.
Oh yeah, they're all really small, huh? These are all tiny.
Yeah, they're very small.
All right.
I am recording.
I'm recording.
Oh, funny. Someone else sent me like parts of the Elden Ring link
Elden
in
Ring thing,
DMs. Was just like, I'm sorry, I don't know how Signal works.
Oh, blessed. All right. Time that is. Begin each day with optimism. End each day with forgiveness. Happiness in life begins.
Don't
and
say the
ends.
quotes from the trailer yet.
That's too
That's it.
optimistic.
You
for
got
a
Well, you know what?
Souls
That's
game.
what what if like all the profound language in the Souls games was just
Quote of
Miyazaki
the
going
day.
to time.is, taking generic quotes, but then just like running them through a language filter,
Yeah.
just like translating them to like different
Until they
languages back
become
and forth
something-
until they become weird and broken.
Yeah. Yeah. You want to do 45?
Sure.
Okay. Coming on the Elden Ring. Hit Pokemon real quick. Probably take a break. We'll see how long that is. And then we can go through stuff. I don't think there's any other. Oh, I guess the only other stuff that's like multiple people is Patrick and I both have Outriders and Haven, but then I don't need to talk about Fights in Tight Spaces today. I put a few minutes.
I
into that,
played a
but
little
not
bit
like-
of it.
Did you? Okay.
Yeah.
We can talk. Okay, then maybe we
It's
can talk
cute.
about
And we could do.
Yeah,
We
it
could
is
do
cute.
like
It is-
there's a bunch of games that like we'd like to mention, and so we just do more lightning round stuff, just like cap the discussions so that they're not.
Oh, the control art book I want to talk about too, just because it fucking rolls.
Oh, does it? Is it?
Yeah,
Is there
it
like? Well, you won't talk about it, or you
I
want
want
to
to.
talk? Okay.
I would
Yes.
love to.
Yes. I thought you were like it rules, so I don't want to talk about it. Like I don't want
No,
to
I
spoil
haven't.
it.
No, I forgot to add that to my
Gotcha. I'll add
little
it
like
now.
tapas
Yeah.
bar of topics.
Control art book, and then Cado, you were Bravely Default, right?
Yeah.
You saying Cado is
377,
bravely default?
Yeah,
that's is
By
very
default.
funny.
Yeah.
Cado. Like at Cado's grave, you were
You were
bravely
truly
default,
Bravely
Cado.
Default. All right.